Beuckens, our expert presenter today. He will be talking about creating lessons with AI. He gave a presentation last year talking about how to use ChatGPT and other AI tools. And it was super popular among our attendees and teachers. So we had to have him back to do another discussion on a similar topic. So I want to thank Todd very much for being here. And I will give you control of the screen.
All right, thanks a lot. So I guess I am in control now, correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Japan. Nice to see everybody. Today, we are going to go over quite a bit, actually. First, we're going to... Actually, let me go ahead and pull up my screen here. We're not going to do the standard PowerPoint lesson. I will actually use PowerPoints a little bit. The reason I won't is because it's actually really hard to go over all the tools. We're going to be going through different browsers, different websites, and so it's going to be more of a hands-on presentation. So there will be slides in the beginning, but mainly it's going to be accessing websites online and showing you how to do it step by step. And we're going to do 3 parts. So part number 1, I will go over just basically what is the difference between inductive and deductive learning, and why it's important to actually know the difference, and why we actually kind of overuse deductive learning, and how AI, which is inductive learning, might actually change that. Then I will go over just some really easy technical things that you can do, super easy, using Excel and Google Sheets to make really powerful worksheets. This is a trick that's probably going to blow your mind. Most teachers don't know you could do this with Excel, and I'm not an Excel user at all. But once you learn how to do this in Google Sheets, I guarantee you'll start doing it. You'll start using it because it's so much better than Microsoft Word, which sounds crazy, right? Using Excel instead of Word to make worksheets. And then part 3 will actually get into how to use ChatGPT. I'm only going to focus on ChatGPT today. There's just not enough time to go in with the other ones. All of the AI tools are kind of similar, but ChatGPT is just the most, I guess, polished right now. So I'm just going to focus mainly on that one. But before we get going, let's get everybody involved here. I have a question for you in the chat box. Joseph, are they allowed to post in the chat box? I take it they are, correct?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks. So I see it right here. So I didn't know if only we could see it. So in the chat box, can you just share, how do you feel about AI? Like, are you scared of it? Are you excited about it? Do you use it in your classroom? Do you think it's going to be a problem in education? Like, when someone asks you about AI and teaching, what's your initial feelings? Yeah, maybe confused. Definitely. Yeah, there's just so much out there. Today, we're going to go over very streamlined, easy tips, things that you can do. Like a lot of people, they don't really know what they can do. Scared. Yep. Scary and scared. Yep. Those are some common ones. Very helpful. Yeah. I think once people get used to using it, then it's not so much of a problem. Lost. Correct. All right, cool. Well, you're going to have some really easy takeaways today. Hello from Yokohama, by the way. I'm also in Japan. I'm in Beppu, Japan today. So we're going to go over some super easy ways to do it, and it's going to blow your mind. It's probably going to change your teaching forever when you see what ChatGPT can do with a transcript. All right. Oh, wow. From Hiroshima. Very close. Nice. Oh, awesome. Okay, so we are going to move on now. I'm going to start the PowerPoint presentation, and this is going to be the first part. Won't take very long. I just want to go over the difference between inductive and deductive. Now, some people say they're confused. In the chat box, I have a question from you. How well do you know the difference between inductive learning and deductive learning? Do you know the difference? If not, that's totally okay. Most people don't know. We're going to go over that I'm just kind of curious. Do you know the difference between inductive learning and deductive learning? So let's go ahead. Don't know. Okay, that's good. So actually, most of us, what we probably do is actually we do deductive learning. And there's a lot of reasons why we do deductive learning. Inductive learning is actually how we learn most things naturally. Deductive learning is almost everything that we learn in school. So let's go ahead and look at this. So first, what is the power of inductive learning? Inductive learning is basically when you learn things naturally, when you learn things on your own. And we have phrases for it in English, like you put something together, you have an aha moment, you figured it out, right? And we have things about inductive, where it's like, oh, I'm lost, I'm not following you. So usually inductive learning is best for like creative stuff, and deductive is more used for logical stuff, like things that are very precise, that has to be told, like you have to be perfect. So let's look at the difference. So inductive and deductive learning are really like just two opposite sides of the same coin. So with deductive learning, which we usually do in school, you introduce something and then you teach it to the students and they try to understand the information that you gave them. With inductive learning, it's more the opposite. You notice a bunch of things, it could be even a problem, and then by solving the problem or working through something, you realize how something works. You draw a conclusion. So inductive is more self-discovery, and deductive is more top-down. A teacher teaches you how to do something. And they are both incredibly valuable, But unfortunately, we almost only do deductive learning, right? Sit down, shut up, and listen. That's kind of the old school way that we've done it with education. Now, inductive is how we learn things naturally, again, and that's like you just observe, right? So you see something and you observe points, data points, patterns, and based on those patterns and also the repetition of seeing the same patterns again and again, then you can make a generalization about something, and then you could even make a theory about how something works, right? So, for example, if you go into a building somewhere and you want to know where the bathroom is, the first thing you're going to look for is the hallway, because you're going to probably figure on the hallway, down the hall, there's probably the bathroom, because every building has a similar structure. So that would be a type of inductive reasoning. You're using past patterns and experiences to solve something new. Now, a deductive is really the classic PPP, right? So the teacher presents something, the students practice it, and then we produce something. And a lot of the reasons, well, maybe the main reason we do deductive training is just because when you have mass education, that's really the best way to do it. But inductive is the opposite. You go orientation, observation, you observe something, then you have an evaluation of it, and then usually you create something, you communicate, you use it in some way. So that would be an example of that. All right, so now, in our situation, what we're going to look at is how AI is actually this way. And when AI freaks people out, this is the difference between old computing and new computing. What AI does is it takes all of these data points and it grabs them together and uses all the data points to figure something out. And what's unique about AI is that if you put a prompt into ChatGPT or Bard, or I guess it's Gemini now, it'll come up almost with a different solution every time. It's like a snowflake, because every time it does something, it is often finding new information and slightly changing the output. So it's actually growing. Whereas the old way of computing was actually deductive. You would program it in the computer, you would do something, and you would get the exact same result. And so that's why AI is so different, is because it actually can change each time you do it. And the computer is going out and it's finding data points, pulling the data points back together, and using those data points to try to create something for you at the best that it can. So the easiest way to think about this is the stars, right? This is how it's been for thousands and thousands of years. We would look at the stars, and based on the stars, we would see patterns. And based on certain things in the sky, we were able to do things like create navigation and seasons and weather patterns and things like that, just by noticing where the stars were, how they changed position year by year. Sailors used it to navigate the world, right? So this is a natural thing, not only for humans, but also just for animals, right? Animals always have those big wide eyes looking and observing patterns and trying to learn and recognize the patterns. So that is actually inductive learning. So it's important to realize that inductive learning is actually the natural way we learn. And so that's why we're teaching computers to learn naturally by gathering data points, and then from those data points come to conclusions, rather than the old way, deductive, where you just give information, you plop it in, and then based on what the person told you, that's how you get the information. So looking at the stars, here we go. So in this picture, we talk about connecting the dots, right? So that's what deductive learning is. It's connecting the dots. Now in this picture, can you connect the dots? What is that? What is the pattern that you see? Right? Oh, actually, I think this is maybe my thing is going up too fast. Let's see if I can go back. I have to stop it here. Just 1 second. Get out of this. I'm actually gonna, for some reason, it is. Oh, I don't want CyberDuck. It is my. I'm gonna go to just this mode because for some reason the PowerPoint keeps on moving ahead, and I don't need the full screen. All right. So again, so here we have a pattern, and what is the pattern? The pattern is it's a shark, right? And so we can find these patterns, these points, and we can use other references to realize, okay, this is what we're trying to make. And this is what the computer does. A computer looks at this, gets all these data points that you gave it, and it's like, is this what you wanted? Did you want a shark? Is this the image you want me to draw? So it kind of thinks the same way that humans do. That's why we call it AI. Although it is technically really not human thinking, in that it doesn't really have the initiative like humans do. It's a very debatable topic, and I'm not an expert to really go into it. When we get to the creative part, you'll see why, the limitations of AI. All right, now, here's the thing. Let's go through a little quick history of learning here. So this is one of my favorite places in the world. This is Angkor Wat in Cambodia. And there are beautiful monuments like this all around the world. And when you think about these monuments, it could be the pyramids, it could be Machu Picchu, it could be the ruins in Guatemala and Mexico from the Aztecs. These wonderful pieces of architecture, when people talk about them, they always say the same thing. They go, oh, how do they make that without machines? How do they make that without tools? Actually, I don't think that's the most amazing thing. Think about this. How did they make that without paper? They had no paper. There was no architectural design. People built these structures by just actually communicating, holding the information in their mind, and then using that information to build these incredible things. There were no plans. Paper wouldn't even survive in the jungle. It would rot. And these projects took hundreds of years to make. So the point of this being that our brains initially were a lot like computing today. They would hold so much knowledge, and then we would be able to pull that knowledge and then create just amazing things. And you would have to do that by having a network. You had to have a network of humans always sharing the information to build something as amazing as that. Right? And that's basically how AI works. You have a network of computers holding all this information, and they're sharing this information, and they could share it so quickly that they could use that information to come up with something incredible in a short period of time. Now, I don't know if you recognize this guy, but this is Aristotle. And Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, he actually was against reading, if you could believe that, because he thought that once people started to read, they're going to affect their memory, and they won't be able to remember and pull up information because it'll just be readily accessible by having text. And I think this is kind of the scare with AI, is that if we have these computers that are always generating this information for us, are we going to lose the ability to actually think for ourselves and hold all this data and this information? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But when we get to the end, you see what you can do. I think you'll realize that it's actually quite useful that we have it. Now, I'm going to stop one more thing before we move on with inductive learning. I have a question for you, for everybody. Do you like to cook? And more importantly, the question is, how did you learn to cook? Now, my guess is that you probably learned how to cook from your mother, right? Or maybe your father. And or if you're a parent, how did you teach your children to cook? It's pretty universal how a parent teaches their children to cook. What they do is inductive learning. Think about it. A parent never uses deductive learning to try to teach their children how to cook, right? A child will say, I want to help, mommy, I want to help, I want to help. And the parent will go, well, okay, here's some vegetables, chop these up. And that's it. That's all the mother's going to say, is chop up the vegetables. The mom's not going to say, okay, what we're going to do is chop up the vegetables and you need to get this knife and then we're going to boil some water and then you need to put the noodles in and then I need you to get the sauce out. It's too much for the child, right? But the child, as the child's helping the mom, the child is learning by just observing things. The child is looking like, oh, what's mom doing? Oh, okay, I got that. Oh, that's how you do that. All right. Ah, oh, what's that thing you're putting in the soup? What is that? Oh, what's that? Chives? What is that? So you're learning naturally, bit by bit, as you need it. So again, that is an example of inductive learning. And this is actually, again, what AI does. AI has one task, but it's also remembering all this other information and noticing other things. And then when a new task comes along, these supercomputers are so good, they could go, oh, wait a minute. I think I noticed something over here years ago, days ago, whatever, on the other side of the planet, and I could pull that information to create something. So it's actually the same process, right? You're always getting new data. And when you think when you're a child, all this information is just flowing in all the time. A child is just observing and observing and observing. And all this information is coming in, and the child doesn't even know the information that it's learning, but the brain is storing it. And then when it needs it, it actually accesses that information, and it does so without even remembering where it got it from. Again, that is kind of how AI works versus the older traditional way of you would program in exactly what you wanted the computer to think or say or do. All right, now, but there's limitations. There's limitations. So the computers actually can help us in a big way, because when you look at students, and especially if you look at students in terms of learning language, there are actually 4 problems that we have, and we usually only address one of them, unfortunately. And that is linguistic knowledge, processing speed, memory, and attention. So when our students are learning languages, most of us are language teachers, these are really the 4 barriers to learning. Pretty much this is it. But we always kind of focus on linguistic knowledge. Is it really at their level, right? We don't really focus on processing speed. How fast can they do something? And also fatigue. We don't really focus on memory, not just total memory, but even short-term memory. You know, one of the things I think that students struggle with, is that they have students have different short-term memory capacity. And a student will read something and then they'll look at the question and they just don't remember what they read. They actually understood what they read, but they just can't remember what they read. And this is kind of the big black hole area in education that we really haven't addressed yet. And then the last one is attention, right? So can we actually keep the students' attention? So to combat all of this, it helps if we can create activities that work on this. So if we can solve these barriers right here, then we can kind of get rid of some of the problems that we have. For example, fatigue, ADHD, maybe students with certain trauma, mental health, whatever. So we can actually create activities, and you're going to see AI will actually help us create activities that can work on this. And then finally, we want to look at how with AI we can address 4 problems. One is the length of an utterance, that somebody has to do something, the complexity of what the students have to do, the speed, how fast do they actually have to do it, and the pacing. And so if we can kind of break this up, and you'll see this in a video later on today, we actually might be able to help the students learn. All right, so now with that, we're going to move on now and do this ourselves. And we're going to see how we could actually use computers to make a bunch of jumbled information into very easy, accessible stuff. And we'll take a little bit a look at the difference between left brain and right brain. So left brain tends to be very logical, and we will look at that first using Excel. And then later, we're going to look at more the right brain, which is more imaginative and intuitive, and how ChatGPT can help us with that. So with that being said, we are now going to move on and do an activity in Excel. I'm going to show you how you can do a deductive lesson, lessons that use deductive programming on a computer. And here's the first one. I'm going to put this in the chat. I hope everybody has access to it. You will need a Google Sheet to do this. I'm going to show you how this works. If you take this right here, oh, actually, you know what? I don't want to do that one first. I want to do this one first. This one. Sorry, I'm going to do the second one first. All right. So I'm going to open this up in another browser here, and I'm going to paste this in there. And then notice when it comes up, it's going to say template. Do you want to use this as a template? And I'm going to say, yeah, I want to use this as a template. So if you have a Gmail account, it'll work. If you don't have Gmail, don't worry. Not important. You can just kind of observe what I'm doing here. All right. So going back to creating activities for students, this is one thing that I really like to do, is I like to use Excel worksheets, because Excel worksheets can actually be a printable version or a digital version. And this is a simple puzzle that I make for the students. And what the students do is they have to solve this puzzle. They get a clue. Here's the letter A, the letter B, the letter C. Yeah, sure. Yes, we will. I promise. You can just watch the video. Also, it's really not that important, but you will have access to the Excel file. So here we have, do you usually blankety blank questions in class? So in the chat box, what do you guys think? What is the answer? What do you think the answer is for that? What is the verb in the present simple? Now, it could be ask. Yes, correct. So I'm going to type that in here. Let's see if I can get it right. So I type in ask, and I hit enter, and bing, 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 it turns green. Woohoo, woot, 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 right? So I got this one right. So now let's do one more. Where do you boop-a-doop your clothes? It could be bring, could be bring, could be buy. I'm going to try buy. So I type that in there. Boop, boop, boop. Now, this is a good one. Regina put bring. Now, I put in bring. That's actually another good option. Thank you for doing that one. That's a good one. Now, if I type in bring, boop, no green, no love. The computer's giving me no love, saying I'm wrong. And you're like, what? It could be bring, right? You could be bring. Well, that's because I programmed it just to do buy. And so the computer only has one choice. Unless I program it in there, that's all it can give me. And this would be an example of deductive programming. Here, this, when do you clean your room? Yep, see, you guys got it. There you go. D, how often do you? What do you guys think? Drink? Yep, you got it. So how did I make this puzzle? And by the way, this puzzle on Excel, I'll show you how to make it in just a second. If I actually want to print this, check this out. I can actually download this as a PDF. And actually, yeah, so here it is. So I can download this as a PDF, and it's going to open up like that. Look at that. And I could print it. So that's what I'm saying. You might want to use Excel instead of Microsoft Word. So I do a lot of interactive activities where if the student does it in Google Docs or they do it on Excel, it doesn't matter. When they type it in, they can get the right answer immediately. And the students go crazy for this puzzle. You know, even as you can see here, people already were starting to finish it. And this is a simple thing, a more traditional thing that you can do with computing, is make a simple activity like this. Now, you might be wondering, oh, you're an Excel wizard. How did you make this? Actually, I'm not an Excel wizard. I am terrible at Excel, and you can make this in seconds. If you create a file in Excel or in Google Sheets is actually easier. Let's say I want to do, I think, was it Regina? Was she the one that said bring? Yeah. So let's say I want to make bring a possible answer. All I have to do is click on the cell and go format, I'm going to go conditional formatting. It's going to come up over here and it's going to say, okay, you already have by. Do you want another one? I'm like, yeah, let's add one more. And I'm going to say, I want it to where if the text is exactly bring, please turn green. And I can even say what color I want. Maybe I'm going to make that one purple, nice purple color. And I click done. So now I come back over here, and if I type in the answer, bring, hit enter, voila, it's correct. So I get the right answer. And this is actually a really good one. By the way, I think that I accidentally, I might have accidentally deleted that one. There it is, yeah. So I hope I didn't get rid of my formatting. I did get rid of my formatting. So I'll do it again because I deleted that one. But this is a really good thing to work on with students for accuracy, right? This is a very good example of how you would do deductive instruction. There's only one way to get it right. There is no alternative, and it's very top down. But this is also very useful for students because now, let's say that the student types in bringing, boop, it's wrong. So things like this really help students because they have to get it perfect. And this is a puzzle-based activity that you can easily design. And this is the traditional way that we would do things with computers. And computers, the old way of computing is really good for this, where it's very binary. There's only one correct answer. And that's why computers traditionally are very binary, right? They are ones and zeros. Either it's correct or it's not correct. And so you can do something like this. You can easily create it in Excel, and you can use it to do vocabulary, and you could also do it to learn grammar. Now, that's a deductive lesson. That's kind of a deductive lesson in a sense. For the student, it's also trial and error, right? So the student, when they do it, they have to keep trying until they get it right. So it's actually inductive a little bit because if they get it wrong, they keep trying again, trying again, trying again. Then they finally get it right and they're like, I got it. Also, when the student does an activity like this, they notice the pattern. Oh, every one of these verbs doesn't have an S. Every one of these verbs doesn't have an ED. Every one of these verbs doesn't have an ING. None of the verbs have to. So even though this is something that's deductive, it could also be used as inductive instruction. Let's go ahead and do the other one now. Let's see if this is, yeah, okay. This is an example of inductive learning. So here is the second one. Now, this is how you can do something where a student would learn inductively. They figure it out. Now, this is one of the trickiest things to teach students, and this is one of the hardest things for them to master, and that is the relative clause, or an adjective clause, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason why it's difficult is because you're going to have to switch the order, remove some things, replace other things, and that task is going to be difficult in any language. Now, if you were to teach this deductively to students, the typical way is you would give them a lot of instruction, a lot of rules, right? And then you would say, go do it, and they would have no idea. But if you did this inductively, you could actually do it to where they have to see the pattern. And maybe just with a little practice, they can figure it out. Like, so for example, here in Excel is great for this, by the way, or Google Sheets. If I want to change this into a clause, I can just do maybe 2 or 4 examples and then let the students do all the other ones on their own and figure it out. The rule. I don't have to explain the rule more than once. So let's say I have an old house that needs repairs. Now, one thing about this is if I type this in, already Excel auto-populates it for me. Awesome. Look at that. That is fantastic. So that's how computing is actually helping me do this problem. The student cannot type it in the wrong way. They're not going to get tired having to type it in. The computer already did it for them. Now all the computer has to do is change it to a relative clause. So they'd be, okay, so what if I remove the subject, because it's the same, and type in the word, this time the relative pronoun would be that or which, and if I remove it, does it work? And then it would be, oh, whoa, I got it right. Wow. So then the student is doing inductive learning. They're like, I got it. I got the pattern. Let's see if I can do it again. So this one, I type it in. The computer already helps us out, gets rid of all the just laborious stuff. And all the student has to do now is remove this Now I could say that, but I'm going to say who. Well, who works? And I put who, and voila, I got the right answer. So then now the student goes to the next one. You teach the next one. Okay, this one's a bit tricky because now you're dealing with the object. So how would I do this? So I'm going to start to type it in. And again, it helps me out. So maybe the student types in, and they go, oh, you know what? It's who. I know it's who. No, that. It's that. I got it. And the student's like, yeah, I got it. Woohoo. What? Why not? Why not? I don't understand. Then they'll notice, wait a minute. I got to get rid of this. So it only takes one time for the student to figure that out, and then they've got it. That's how it works. So then they go to the next one. I have to remove this. So let's try it again. I have an old friend. Now this one, I'm going to type it in. Who I think you met. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And voila, boom. Now, maybe you have some grammar pros out there and they're like, hey, wait a minute. That's supposed to be whom. I think I put in both for this one. So if they type in whom, is it still going to be okay? Yeah, it's still okay. So similar to the other one, you can put in more than one answer. So this is an example of a deductive programming that you could actually use for inductive learning, where you could create something that's a puzzle for the student to figure out on their own. And the student learns by trial and error, and they learn by observing patterns. Now, to do this, an activity like this, there's a couple things that are different than your typical pattern, than your typical activity. One, you might have noticed there's almost no explanation. There's no meta language. There's no really verbose explanations explaining. There's just examples. And there's intrigue for the student to try to get it right. So if you create something like this would be an old technology that you could use to actually create inductive learning, inductive tasks. And I could vouch for this. The students go crazy about this. They get hooked once they start to do it. And also, this is a similar activity. If you want, you can print. You can do it in print format as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing just for a second. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions? So that was the deductive part. And now I'm going to kind of get into the ChatGPT, but I wanted to warm it up first so you can see a little bit of the old school stuff and how it works. Okay, so everybody's good? All right. Now, by the way, if you email me at the end, I'll share my email address. I have hundreds of these templates, and so I could share them with you and help you if you're interested in them. But now we're going to get to the main event. The main event, which is ChatGPT. We have not done anything with AI technology really yet. So now I'm going to show you how I use ChatGPT in my classes and in my lessons, and also with Ello. I don't know if you guys know about Ello, but I'm the creator of Ello, and how you can do some really amazing things with this. All right, so first, well, actually, let me go ahead and get I can find my Zoom. Sorry, guys, I lost it. Give me just 1 second. Just before I move on, were there any questions here kind of at the halfway point before I move on? So I move on to the AI. Nope. Okay, so now we're going to move on to AI. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing mainly ChatGPT for now. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to show all my screens. Excuse me. Okay, so here's ChatGPT, and we're going to go ahead and look at some of the stuff that I've done. I can move this stuff around here. I should be logged in. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, I use it a lot. And I use it ethically. So by that, I mean, I almost never ask ChatGPT to write something that I should create myself. There are some things that I do ask it to create, just really basic vanilla stuff, but I don't really ask it to teach my lessons. What I ask it to do is to be my assistant and just do things really quickly for me that will save me a lot of time and make the activities much, much better. So let's look at some ways that I might do this. So the first is we will look at how I used it to teach my Japanese students. So there's some people from Japan in here. Woohoo, that's awesome. I saw that. So I had a problem. So my problem was this. So this was the first thing that we had. We had this on Quizlet. And so another teacher created it so I could that knew Japanese, so I could trust them. And I was like, oh, maybe not. No, maybe this one. I'm sorry. This one actually, I think I actually scraped the words and I made this myself. Actually, let me pull this up. Sorry, I'm all over the place, aren't I? So this was the list, I believe. No, it wasn't this one. It was, so this is, I was using Quizlet and it was, I think it was this one. Oh gosh, this is probably going to be the one that I made. Yeah, so this is the activity that I made. I'm sorry. But anyway, I had a list and it was basically the English and the English with an English definition. And I realized, oh man, that's not going to work, right? Because if I do English to English definition, it's too hard for my students. I needed to get the Japanese word. So what I did is I went to ChatGPT. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, guys. I'm really sorry about this. I'll get it figured out here. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, I want these words, and I just pulled them and I translated them. And I said, can you please make these so they go into an Excel file? So then it took the words that I gave it and it said, okay. And my command, going back here to the command for ChatGPT was, notice it doesn't even matter if you type it in incorrectly. I did it incorrectly. Sort these words into 2 columns with the Japanese word on one side and the English word on the other side for Excel generation. And then, generation was the first word, sorry, for Excel. So that was the command. Can you please just sort these words? So then I put it in ChatGPT, I hit enter, and it said, sure, man, this is it. Boom. So then it gave me this nice little list. And I'm like, awesome. It sorted it into a table for me so quick. Then I said, hey, can you create another column with the example sentence using the word in the English column? That was it. That's all I asked it. And it said, here it is. It took like 2 seconds. So then it gives me a sample sentence. And they're all correct. And one thing that's amazing about ChatGPT, if you give it enough data points, it'll get the right word. It won't, like for example, here it has content. It didn't use it like with content, right? So it didn't miss or stress. Here, it usually gets the right word. By the way, there are a couple of mistakes here for the Japanese that are noticing this that I did catch later. So it's not always perfect. You do have to go and fix it. But so here now it's made me, I've taken the list and now I have sample sentences. But I'm like, you know what? It would be really cool if I could have this as a gap fill, right? And then it said, okay. So I wrote here, in the example sentence column, remove the vocabulary word from the English column and create a gap by replaying the vocabulary item with a black using the underscore. Notice I screwed up the instructions. I was typing so fast and I didn't even proofread it, right? It was supposed to be reusing the vocabulary item and it was supposed to be a blank using underscore, but I typed in the wrong word. And then the computer's like, yeah, no problem. We know what you mean. And it gave this to me. And it was perfect. Then I could take this and easily make an activity in Quizlet. So now I have an activity that I can make in just minutes. So now, that's actually another command. And then also it says it should be ready for, to use or whatever, and I'm done. Now watch this. So once I've taken my list, I want to actually do it all here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy. Sometimes it'll actually give you the list. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this right here. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put this in a drive. And then I'll go new and I'm going to go Google Sheet. So my Japanese is not very good, but now if I pop this into Excel, I have this nice little worksheet that I could give my students. And I could create an activity with these words. So here the word is generation. So I can copy that. And then I can go format, conditional formatting, text is exactly, type in generation, hit done, and there it is. So that's my first one. And then usually what I do is I give a clue, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it for federal. So I'm going to grab this, go add another rule. Text is exactly, paste it in there, and it's done. Then I'll go wind, copy that, add another rule, and then text is exactly, paste it in, and it's done. So usually what I'll do now is I'll make this the answer sheet. So I'll rename this to answer. I won't do them all because we don't have time. Then I'll create another sheet, and I'll make this one the blank. And then I'll make another one. I call it my ABC method. I'll give one that's the clue. Oh, sorry. I want to delete that. Did I actually not copy? I'm sorry. I need to duplicate. Excuse me. So what I need to do is, I need to duplicate. And then I'm going to change the name, rename it. So that one will be blank. And then I'll do one more. Oh, sorry. I keep on doing the wrong thing. Sorry about that. So then I'll come here again and I will say duplicate again. And this one will be clue. I'm going to rename that one for clue. So I call this my ABC method. So then with the clue, what I would do is I would give the students the first letter, or maybe the first 2 or 3 letters. So they have a clue. So you have different versions that you can do, right? And then this is a puzzle. Then you can share it with the students. You can print it out, whatever. But notice, imagine how long it would take me to make that if I had to type it myself. A long time. That would take a long time, right? So you could use the computer to do a lot of this stuff really, really quickly. And even if you screw up the instructions like I did, half the time it gets it right. Now, let's say I take this. So I've made this, and I'm like, okay, so now I have this, and I want to make a Quizlet. So now I can just grab this, and I'm going to go to my Quizlet, and I'm going to create a new one. Hopefully I'll get this up here. And where is my little arrow thing? My library, flashcard sets. And actually, it's not giving me the create one. Maybe did they change it? That's odd. I should have my thing to create a new one. Usually the little plus sign right over here. Let me try it with my Quizlet here. Oops, sorry, there it is, logging the Quizlet. All my typos today. There it is. I don't know why it's not showing on the other one. So if I click flashcard set here, and it'll open up, then all I have to do is import and paste that in there, that Excel sheet, and say, okay, I want to import this, and then voila, I have a Quizlet. So now I could use this as a very simple activity. And again, I've used ChatGPT to save me a ton of time. They can expand it. They can do a lot of things with it. Now I could even do something like this. Let's say I come back here and I'm like, you know what? I've already done this once, right? So I can go to ChatGPT and say, can you make another version of the same thing? So if I can get back here. So I'll come down here and I'm sorry, I'm blocking my view with the little message bar. Please make an alternative set. Notice I always say please, I'm talking to a computer. I don't know why I always do that. Please make an alternative set to these example problems. And then I'm going to paste in what I just did. And it'll just take a second. And then, right, they'll see here they have the federal budget was approved by Congress last week. The original one was the federal government announced new policies. So you could just take the same thing you did and say, hey, do this again, but please make another version. And you can do another version and another version and another version. So that is like an example of how ChatGPT can save you a ton of time. All right, so I'm going to show you the main thing coming up next. Does it work in ChatGPT 3.5? I assume it's pretty basic. That's a pretty basic task. My guess is it does. Yeah, my guess is it does. All right, guys. Now we're going to get to the main thing. This is the main show, the headliner, the thing that I think is going to change your mind, blow your mind about what the computer can do. First of all, does anybody use Loom? Do you guys know about Loom? Has anybody ever used Loom? So Loom, you can also use Descript. There's a bunch that you can use. So I make videos, and I'm actually making videos, making an online course. And so I'll record my video. I'll record a video of me doing something, right? So for example, here's a video, by the way, I can share showing you how I made that. Let me go ahead and share this link, actually. Here's a video that shows step-by-step how I made that for my fellow teachers. So let me put that in the chat window. So you guys might want to save this for later. That's step-by-step how I can more advanced 15 minutes step-by-step just how to do the Excel thing if you want to learn how to do it. Hey, no problem. Everybody's welcome. Nobody's late. Nobody's late. All right. So now I do these recordings in Loom. And so going back to, we want to have the length, the complexity, whatever. I like to make these little videos, and I make videos of me recording something. And so here what I've done is I take a conversation and I play it, and then this is one of the students' conversations, and then I explain the vocabulary or I explain the grammar. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. I think you're going to be able to hear this. Yeah, so here it is. So here's me just explaining a grammar point. And in this conversation, two people are talking as they are having a camping trip. I have two questions. The lessons. Now we will close out by watching the video. So you can see the script. All right, are you ready? Let's go ahead and listen and see if we can hear the answers to those questions. Let's go. All right, so sorry, that's all right. Welcome back. So we have two questions. First, where did they get the food? This is a common phrase. When you don't want something, you really don't want it, we say the last thing that I wanted. For example, the last thing that I wanted was to spend all of my money, or the last thing I wanted was to get into a fight with my friend. So the man says the last thing that he wanted was to be out here all alone, which means he didn't want to be alone in the wild. All right, so I just want to give you an example of me yapping away, blah, 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 trying to explain something. Now, here's why this is really powerful. So I use Loom, and you have to, this is a paid account, actually. I think you have to have the paid account, but it's not very much to get the transcript, but there are other free transcript services out there. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and go, hey, I'm going to copy this transcript. So I have, this is the transcript with a timestamp of me yapping away, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's say I want to share this with students. I can go to ChatGPT and say, I'm going to go to a new one here. Let's get a new one here. And I'm going to say, convert this transcript. I got to move this again so I could see it. Convert this transcript into a readable lesson with headings and describe all the language points. So it doesn't really matter what the command is. And then I'm going to put in this gibberish. So that's me talking. Then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to hit enter. And then ChatGPT does its magic. It takes everything that I said and it breaks it down. And it gives a nice little focused summary of everything that you said in seconds. So these are the points that I was talking about. So in the article, I talked about defining relative clauses, and I talk about it. It explains it there. I explained it no time at all. I explained it sounds like you need to. I explained as long as I have, right? And it actually took my transcript in just a couple seconds, put it in a very nice readable format. I think I have a better one here. Yeah, so I did one the other day. you can see, and it was similar. So I did this script. So I'm going to go way back here at the top. Sorry. I hope I'm not making you dizzy. So with Loom, what I did is I said, convert this transcript into a lesson, list all the major language points. And then this was actually just nonsense that I got from Vimeo. So you could do this with YouTube. We'll show you how to do this with YouTube in a minute. And then what I did is I just put that in there. And then I think if I just hit this, it goes to the next one. Oh, sorry, it doesn't. And then it said, okay, it took all of that information. Sorry, I need to go back to the top here. And it gave me this first one. Sorry. All right, so it gave me the first one. So I looked at it and it was like pretty good, actually, how it summed up everything I said. It was my voice. I was the one that did it. And then it, when I was done, I was like, hey, you know what? Can you just like make that a little bit easier and remove the practice element? There was a practice element that it added, and it just spitted it out again in just a quick second and gave me the summary of what I did. So for example, once this comes out on YouTube, you would be able to do that with anything that I talked about, right? You would be able to say, hey, what's he talking about? Where are all these points? You can actually just scrape the transcript from YouTube, put it in ChatGPT and say, will you please summarize what this person said? Now we'll do that right now. So we just did this one right here, this Loom recording, right? So let's just do this. So this is the Loom that I did where I was talking about, where is it? Coming back to Loom. So I had this one Loom where I was talking about how to make these things on Excel. And so this is not so much, so this one right here. So this one, we have me talking how to do it step by step. So this is more like a summary, how you would do something. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the transcript. I'm going to grab copy, just copy that. I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to go to a new ChatGPT and say, create an article explaining all the main points in this video tutorial. Use headings. That's all I have to say. Like imagine you ask somebody something, you tell your friend to do that. They would be like, what are you talking about? The amazing thing about ChatGPT, it's also using AI to figure out what you actually want to do. So I'm going to go ahead now and paste in that. So this is the little point that we did, how I made that Excel sheet. And so now, if you have a sleepy student, maybe some of you were sleepy or whatever. Oh, this is actually, so it actually tells you in the video. I didn't even ask it to do that, but it actually did it for me. And then there it is. That's step by step how I actually made that Google Sheet. And now I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go back. Oh, I hope I'm still sharing. Yeah, am I still sharing? I'm going to go back to the chat, and I'm going to paste that in there. I think I can paste it in there. Ooh, maybe. So I'm going to go and stop sharing. I think I could paste that in there. No, I can't. Sorry. But anyway, I'll give you the link so I can easily then share like how I did something. Let me get that back up there. Sorry, guys. How many times have I said sorry today, by the way? Now you know why I don't do PowerPoint. So I'll go ahead and grab this, and we'll do a new one. And I will now just paste this in Drive, and I'll do a new document for you. And then there it is. There it is, step by step, how I did it. So while I'm talking, yapping away, blah, 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 saying sorry a million times, losing this, losing that, in a few seconds, I'm going to be able to share with you a detailed instruction on how to do this. I have the title right there. So I'm going to go ahead and save this with anyone with the link. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that link. And now I think it's going to work. Let's see if I can do it now. I'm going to go ahead and stop share. And now I believe there it is. Voila, you have it. Okay, so that's it for the presentation. We've got 7 minutes. I don't know if that's enough time for questions. I'm not sure, Joseph, what you want me to do. But that's it. So if anybody has any questions, you can email me at Todd elo.org. And I am more than happy to help you with this if you have any questions. And that's it. That's my presentation. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Todd. That was a fantastic presentation. I definitely learned quite a bit too. I was kind of playing around with things as you were going through. So a really, really great presentation. Thank you. We do have some time for a few questions. If anybody has any questions, I did see a few early on. Let me see if I can find them again. But they were pretty high up. Somebody asked, how do you control the level of English that ChatGPT produces for these examples?
Yeah, actually, you have to ask it. I'll say often, I'll double down. I'll say, please make it suffer A1 and third grade reading level or something like that. Though it screws it up a lot. Actually, when it does, and it always uses the same words like delve and dive into. It uses the same dumb phrases. So you have to kind of omit that. But yeah, you can just ask it to make it simpler. I have not perfected it, but usually it's pretty good. But usually you have to go through and edit it down.
Wonderful, wonderful. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, ELO has 3 L's. Yeah, it stands for English Listening Lesson Library Online. And that's my website. It's all free if you want to check it out. It's 3 L's. And there's also a contact box there as well. It's just like free listening activities.
Wonderful. Also, if I may steal the screen for just a moment.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Since we are talking about AI and digital tools, it's of course important for us at eFuture to mention that we are not necessarily a digital company, but we are making strides in that area. And one thing that we'd like to highlight is the apps that we make for our textbooks. We have started to incorporate some AI functionality, not unlike what has been done here, with our speaking practice. So for our Smart English 2nd edition and Smart Phonics 3rd edition textbooks, there is a mobile app which has the AI Andy feature. And you can use that to do speaking practice. So all of those sentences that you put in using ChatGPT and Google Docs or Excel, you can then also kind of borrow from the eFuture apps and make your own additional speaking practice along with that. So you can use the content from our eFuture books to kind of add a review, things like that. These apps are available for free on the Google Play Store and on the Apple stores. If those are the major ones. If you don't have a Google Play account or Apple account, you can always contact us and we can give you other alternatives for finding those apps as well. We don't have enough time for that, but also I want to mention if you do have additional questions about this presentation or about getting your certificate, or about getting in contact with Todd, you can reach out to us at eFuture. Our email address is inquiry@eltkorea.com. You can also check in with our local partners, so you can see all the countries where we are based right now. And if you don't see your country listed there, you can always just contact eFuture and we'll help you out that way. So thank you again very, very much for everybody attending. These are other links and information for things like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We will be putting this presentation up on our YouTube account sometime either today or tomorrow at the latest, once we get everything edited down. And of course, I want to say one final big thank you to Todd for taking so much time to give us such a lovely presentation today. Thank you very, very much. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure to work with you guys.
Wonderful. We love working with you.
You always have the best audience.
Yeah. Yes, they are wonderful. Well, thank you very, very much, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Our next webinar will be in August. And don't forget, please fill out that survey so that you can get your certificate as well.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.